New Thought Media Network proudly presents It's All Love, Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 6 p.m. Eastern. With Laura Mock, Maria Harteman, Wendy Ann, and Lara Brzezinskis. It's All Love, a space where we open into the heart, tap into the soul's deep wisdom, and enter into the energy of love, truth, presence, and joy. It's All Love, Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 6 p.m. Eastern.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome back to the It's All Love podcast. I'm your host today, Lara Brzezinskis, and joining me today is Maria Harteman. Hello, Maria. Thanks for being here.
Hello, Lara.
And this is a space where we talk real life, and we're focusing our conversation around moms, working moms, stay-at-home moms, mompreneur, juggling, all the things, or even just a woman in business who wants to learn a little bit more about how to juggle life and not drop the balls. If you've been with us before, you'll notice that this conversation is a little bit different than it's been in the past. And we're shifting into deeper, more honest conversations about it, what it really means to show up for yourself, your family, and your work. And each week we'll dive into honest conversations about stress, anxiety, overwhelm, purpose, joy, what it really looks like to put yourself back on your own priority list. And I'll be sitting down with incredible women who are building businesses, raising families, managing homes, and doing it all in their perfectly imperfect way. They'll be sharing their stories, their challenges, their courage, and the tools that help them stay grounded, sane, and thriving. And so my hope is that you leave each episode feeling supported, inspired, and a little bit more connected to yourself. All right. So with that, let's dive into today's conversation with Maria. So Maria, she's a mom, a wife, and she's also, her passion is being an energy and sound bath healer for herself. She's a thriving entrepreneur. So Maria, you'll be able to do it best. So please tell us a little bit about who you are and what season of life you're in right now.
Okay, yeah, you said it very well. That's the list. Mom definitely has come first for a really, really, really long time. I have a 21-year-old son, an 18-year-old daughter, so we are officially empty nesters for one semester. And then my son is coming back for an internship in Charlotte, so he'll be back at home for a semester or a few months, I guess. So empty nesters-ish, but I do remember very well the many, many years where, I was mom first and foremost. And as far as the energy work goes, then that's all that has been a part of my life for 25 years. I started doing it in 2000. And so it has been a part of me, a part of who I am and how I have taken care of myself. And it eventually expanded into offering that for others as well. And then in the last few years, I became really interested in learning how to do sound baths, loved going to them. And I took a class in that and got my own bowls, and one thing led to another. And now I do four monthly classes at different locations. Well, 3 different locations, two classes at one location.
Very nice.
Yeah, I absolutely love it.
You said what you were doing, you did for yourself. So tell us a little bit about that. What sparked you into, your interest into the energy healing?
I was diagnosed at 2.5 with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And, it was a part of who I was all growing up. And I had a significant relapse when I was in 1999. So I guess I was 24. I'd been in remission for maybe a year or two and had a really bad relapse. Was on 5 different medications, just whatever the protocol for that time period was for arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. And it wasn't helping. And it was making me more miserable. And I was still in pain. And then I had all the side effects from the medications. And my now sister-in-law was actually working for an energy healer at the time and was learning how to do it herself. And she was like, let me just try. And I was like, okay, whatever. I had swelling in my hands, among other places in my body, but hands were significant because I drove stick shift at the time. And so it really bothered. It was hampering my daily life. It was making things very difficult. And she put energy in one of my hands for about 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. And I was like, okay, now what? And she said, just hold the intent that the swelling will go away. And we were at a restaurant at the time. My apartment was about 30 minutes away. And by the time I left the restaurant and got back to my apartment, the swelling in my hand was gone. And so,
Wow.
yeah, it was, I did not expect that. I knew nothing about energy work. I was not open. I mean, I guess I was open enough, right? I think I was just at rock bottom. You know how they say you have to hit rock bottom before you can really open yourself up to trying something different sometimes. And that is exactly what happened for me. And so I went to that energy healer that was teaching her. I went to one session with her and decided I needed to be able to do this for myself. I did start to feel a shift after one session with her. And then I signed up for classes. I started reading books about spirituality and stuff like that. I was raised in church, so this was different. This was outside of what I had been taught. And so I guess that was July. By September, I took my first energy class. Well, I was, learning in the meantime. I was learning. I was going to she would do talks to teach you about the different chakras and energy and all this stuff. And so I started going to those as well. And then in September, I took my first Reiki 1, essentially is what it was, class, and began to do it for myself, and then also became part of this bigger community where we would meet once a week. We would exchange energy. And by the end of October, I had weaned myself off of all my medications. And
Wow.
yeah, it was quick. It was very, very quick. And that is not the experience for everybody. So I'm not saying that, whatever, we all have different paths, right? But it was my experience. And that was 25 years ago. And I have not had another relapse where I've needed to go back to a rheumatologist or anything. So it's big. It's a big life-changing shift. Yeah.
Yes, I could absolutely see where you would want to pass that forward and help other people have relief, whether it's physical pain or others. So,
Yeah.
wow. And
Yeah.
I'm familiar with energy healing. There's, people do all kinds of different energy healing, and you also do your sound bath. So what is it that that you bring in your sessions, whether the energy or the sound bath or both, that makes you unique? What is your magic that you bring when you do sessions with people?
That's a good question. And there probably would have been a time when I would have said nothing. Nothing makes me magical or unique, right? But no, I honestly think that the thing that I bring to it is I think I bring the feeling of peace to people, the feeling that they have that inside of them, that they can tap into it, that they don't actually need me or anybody as much as they think they do, that it actually is inside of you, and that you do have the ability, there's hope, You have the ability to heal yourself and to live the life that you have always imagined. And I don't know that that's different from other energy workers. But I do also come to every session from a place of non-judgment. I am imperfect. I have made mistakes in my life. I understand shame and regrets and all of those things. So I would never judge another person. I think people feel that from me. I'm very real in that way.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So, and you and I have talked about this before, where every session is, yes, I'm offering insight for that person specifically, but every session I get something for myself as well. And so I'm always learning, and I recognize that I am always learning, and I am always growing, and I'm always expanding. And so that's part of it too, I think. Yeah. That might be a little different because sometimes you go to people and they seem to have all the answers and they seem to just, have it all together, or they put on that show for people, I guess. But yeah, and it's been time. It's been so much time and experience. So there's something to be said for that. If you're a week into this journey, then obviously it's not going to feel, or you're not going to have that confidence that somebody who's been doing it for 25 years will have, but it's very, very possible. Yeah. So.
Well, I would say, speaking from experience of working with Maria, she brings so much more than than what she's really telling us. Is she's connected. She's connected to intuition. She's connected to what's happening in the client's energy chakras. So we talk about energy healing. If you've never heard about it before, you're not really familiar with energy healing, or you're like, yeah, I've heard about it, but what is it? I still wouldn't be able to explain very well. But what I experienced with Maria is that she had insight. It wasn't just, okay, I'm gonna run energy on you, which is a term that she would use, but she was able to say, here's what I'm seeing, here's what I'm feeling, sensing, right, without being able to, here's the script. And in conversation, what she was reflecting back made sense. And it was, oh, and then after she does a pre-scan and gets the intuition of where you're blocked, where you really need to focus energy to get things to flow and release. And so we talked first, then she ran the energy, and then had so much more to share with me after, and had some practices, some things for me to do. As she said, you could do this yourself, but it was more than that. It was the intention, the information, the heart, and the energy. So that was my experience. So Maria, if you were to explain to somebody who came to you and said, what do you mean by energy work? What do you mean by running energy? And I've heard of chakras, but like, how does that all fit in? How would you explain that a little bit more to somebody who, maybe hasn't really experienced it?
Well, I try not to scare people. So I mean, yes, you described it much better than I did. I do intuitive energy work. So there is Reiki, which most people are familiar with. And Reiki is it can be very much about specific hand positions and stuff like that on the body, but it can also be done distance. So it's all the same energy. But what I do, I guess, is a little bit different. There are many people who do it just like me, or very much like me, is I do tap into that person's soul, into their spirit, and into their energy body first. I connect to their divine team, and I know that sounds woo-woo, and that's not what I usually put out there. But it's the truth. It's what I do, and I think that is where the insight comes from, because I am able to, yes, I can see energetically, or sense energetically where there might be blockages, but the true help, I think, is from your own spirit. So it actually is from you. Um, and I think that's where the main help comes from. So running energy or offering energy to another person is only part of it. I guess the messages of knowing what your soul is wanting you to know. I think that's just equally as big, I guess, equally as important, because there's always a reason, you know.
Right.
Did that answer your question?
Well, and I would reflect back at you. That is your magic and your superpower. So it's more than just running the energy, which is a part of it, but it's being able to connect with the person's higher self, their wisdom, and hearing from them. So you're not telling, you're sharing, because
Yeah.
you've been able to listen, for when we had our session, it was really, okay, here's what your soul knows. And I said something and you went, oh, yep, that's what your higher self just said. Yep, right there. And that just felt affirming to me and really powerful. So I'm curious now. So tell us a little bit about the sound bath healing. How is that different? And do you run them together? What does that look like?
It is a little different in that I do sometimes do individual sessions, but I primarily use the crystal singing bowls that you might have seen. I can show you one. Well, you can see. Oops. Well, you don't want to see that.
Your collection.
Yeah. So those are just some of them. But those are
Okay.
what I typically play. And there are all different ways to do sound baths. Some people use gongs, some have chimes, there are so many different modalities, but this is what I prefer and I love to do. And it is actually, I think I love it because it is like giving an energy treatment to a whole group of people all at the same time. And so I used to go to, I don't know who introduced me to them, but a friend of mine and I found a class that was about 45 minutes from us, and we would go once a month to her classes. And then, and I just always felt so energized and peaceful and good afterwards. And I basically just slept through every class. Um, but I felt so good when I woke up when the class was over. And I guess it was during COVID that went away, and I craved it. I really wanted it. And then I was talking to Laura, who also is other Laura Mock. One day I did a session with her, and it came out like, why am I not doing that? Why haven't I stepped into that? Because I would love to be able to offer that not only to myself, because I get something from it every single time I play, but I'd love to do that for others. And I guess I don't know if that's unique in the way that I do it. Maybe there are others who do the same, but I do really incorporate energy work into every sound bath. I do have the intent that everybody leaves completely balanced and filled by the time they leave my class. So that's something I think that it incorporates the energy piece of who I am, and just on a larger scale. And it feels so good to be able to offer that to people. Yeah, I love it. It brings me great joy.
What I love hearing, yeah. What I just heard from you, and I love hearing, and I want to reflect to anybody that's listening, is that you found these for yourself, right? That each of these tools provided benefit, they filled you, and then you decided, I want to turn around and share. I want to help others. And in the process, you get to experience all the goodness as you're doing, as you're sharing. And so, when as you're listening, just think about, I just invite you to tap into why you got started doing what you're doing, and how does it fill you up right now? How does it still light you up? So one last question about your business before we dive into the juggling act of mom and business. how would you say that this lights you up and fills you? How does it really bring you joy when you are serving someone with the energy or the sound bath?
Well, I think that the primary way is that I do have to remain centered. I have to be in balance. I have to do the things to get myself and keep myself in that space so that I can offer to others. We've talked about it before on this podcast about the airbag, right? The oxygen mask on the airplane. Um, you have brought that up many times, and it is so important. I have to do these things for myself so that I can offer from a balanced place. I can offer to others, and so it benefits me, of course. And even while I'm playing the bowls, other people might fall asleep, but I get just as much from playing and being in that energy and being in that higher vibration, as they do from laying there and listening. I really do. And so it sounds selfish, and maybe it is selfish, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because it has kept me healthy, physically healthy, emotionally healthy, mentally healthy. It's kept me healthy. And that is the priority. How do we give to anybody else if we don't take care of ourselves? You know, it does come back to that every single
Yes.
time. Yeah.
Absolutely. So speaking of the balancing, we said you're a wife, a mom, you're the house manager for years. I'm sure you were the chauffeur, the emotional CEO, all the
Chef.
roles. So, and chef, there we go. So many more. So how do you, I'm sure now it's a little bit different that they're not at home. So what would you say was your superpower that supported you in juggling all of those, being in the dance of, we know balance
Mm.
is always this, it's never equal, and it's never um, uh, what am I trying to say? It's never equal, and we're always moving. Balance is always a moving target. So what would
Yeah,
you say was,
shifting.
a tool that you used to help you stay in the flow so you didn't lose your mind?
Yeah. I think that honestly, meditation has been my anchor through it all. And that has ebbed and flowed over the years. I would say the first 15 years of my kids' lives were they were the center, and I would forget myself a lot, a lot. And, coming from a background with a physical disability, I guess, or ailment, disease, um, my personal messaging system was physical pains. And so I would recognize when I was extremely overextended and extremely out of balance in ways because I would get a physical pain again. I would get a hip pain. My hands would get stiff. My knee would hurt, those kinds of things. My spirit has always used, my higher self, whatever you want to call it, has always used my physical body as a messaging system. Um, and so I guess it's that having that contrast of pain and knowing what it feels like to be without pain now, that when I have, or in the past 25 years, when I would experience a pain that stopped me, and they would stop me. So when I experienced that pain, I would pay attention, and I would come back to center, and I would meditate, and I would slow down, and I would say no, to all the things that I felt like I had to do to be that the good mom, the good wife, the whatever it is. I had to really prioritize myself. And so it's a shift. It's a shift from mentally going from a space of being told and feeling like you being selfish is bad to
Mm.
recognizing that sometimes I need to be selfish to maintain my own physical health. And when it comes to that, then decisions get a little bit easier. So if you don't have that physical ailment, I guess it is more about recognizing what your messaging system is, and paying attention to it and responding, paying attention, responding, do the things that bring you back to center, do the things that bring you back in balance um, when you get those messages. Because we all go off balance, every single one of us. You know, no matter how long we've been doing this, we will have days where we are not balanced, we are not, we are overextended, we are exhausted. You know, but hopefully we have fewer and fewer of those, or when we do have those, we can recognize it quickly and do the things that we know bring us back. I don't know if that makes sense.
You just shared a lot. So I just want to reflect back for the listener. We're just going to kind of categorize. But what I heard you say was you had an alert system in your system that was pain would show up in places in your body. And what you learned was I need to pay attention and I need to prioritize myself. We've talked about this before, how important it is prioritizing ourselves, filling ourselves up so we do have the energy for everyone else, the mental energy, the physical energy, and the emotional energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so you shared some of your tools and how important it was to really ground and center in yourself. So and we all know we all have different alert systems. We all are going to have something, and so what I heard you say is just to begin to notice, what is your alert system? What is your smoke detector that says, hey, wait a second, there's a fire brewing, I'm getting exhausted, what is it?
Right.
It might be, short with your kids. It might be that you aren't planning ahead, and so you're rushing and just always feeling rushed. But so there's some things, but I wanted to ask you another specific question. So you said meditation. So can you share with me, how do you use meditation? Because I've heard that it's really helpful to start your day with meditation. But what happens 8 hours later when you're tired and you're picking the kids up from school and you're in the pickup line and for them, how do you maintain throughout the day?
Hmm. I would say several things happened when I started to meditate. Number one, on my list, because it's so important to me, is that I started sleeping better. I started falling asleep faster, sleeping deeper, and sleeping better. Now, as a mom, of course, there are different phases in your life when you're up, so that didn't always help. But, well, it helped. Of course, it helped, but it didn't help as much as, maybe needed. Um, but for me, meditation started with just breath, with just the breath. I think people are intimidated by the idea of meditation because they think it has to be like 30 minutes of clearing your thoughts and just sitting there and, all of that. I say if I can do 2 minutes of just focusing on my breath, I've done a good job. And that can be done at any point in the day. It doesn't just have, I start my day there, but it doesn't mean that I don't take breaks throughout the day and just take 60 seconds to focus on my breath, bring my energy back to center. That's always my intent. If I'm focusing on my breath, I know that what I'm really doing is pulling all my energy back into the center of my heart. I am refilling, I am refocusing. And when I do that, then the tasks that I have in front of me are actually more achievable because I am centered and I can put my energy towards the next thing and the next thing and the next thing in a much more calm and focused way. Whereas if you forget about that, then you're kind of you're in that constant state of scramble and scattered, and it doesn't feel good. And when it doesn't feel good, it also makes it very difficult to achieve the things that you need to do. And so you're always kind of playing catch up and feeling like you haven't quite done enough, you know? And as a mom, that feels horrible when you always are feeling like you're just not enough. And that is like a plague of motherhood, right? And so if you can offer
Right.
yourself 1 minute of focused breath to start with in the morning, then it gets to be a little bit easier throughout the day to offer yourself another minute of focused breath. It might be when you escape to go to the bathroom. for you young moms. It might be that 1 minute that you get in the bathroom without a kid following you in. It might be the shower. It might be your shower. It might be before you start cooking dinner as you're washing dishes, just bringing all your attention back to your breath, back to inhale, back to exhale, and just that over and over, inhale, exhale, being your only focus for 60 seconds at a time. And the more you incorporate that through your day, the better you feel, the more centered you feel, the more able you are to achieve the things that you want to achieve. That's my belief. And since energy
I
follows
love
intent.
that because yes, I love that because you just gave us all throughout the day practice, right? I heard you say really start your day with intention, as long of a meditation as you can do, 1 minute, 10 minutes, 15. I know the recommended I've heard is 20. I don't always allow myself the time, shall we say, to
There
do
you
the
go.
20. But what I heard you say is starting your day with the intention to start centered, be centered. And then throughout the day, you can just take escape moments. And you don't need any tool. You don't have to go anywhere. It's right where you are. And it's as simple as you're putting your attention on your breath. And thank you for making it so clear, Maria. It's putting your attention on the in breath and the out breath. And I know for myself, when I am putting all my attention, my focus on breathing in and out and how it's feeling in my body, my brain gets quiet because that's where all my attention is. And it does just what you said. It helps you center and ground because you just connected back with yourself and with this moment, because you're right in that moment, not I gotta do that next, I gotta do that, and I screwed that up, and right. So
Right.
how powerful
Yeah.
that is a tool we can use anywhere, anytime to bring us right here, right now. I love
Right.
that.
And to fill your heart, because and I guess it's the intent. What is the intent that you have with this moment? If my intent is that when I focus on my breath, then all of my energy is coming in, then that's what's happening. That's what happens for you. If my intent is when I focus on my breath, my energy comes in and my heart gets filled, then that is what happens for you. So if energy follows intent, you get to set that intent. What is it? What do you seek? What do you need in this moment? Is it your heart to be full? Is it your energy to be centered? Is it peace? For a lot of young moms, it's peace. It's a moment of peace, is all they need so that they can feel like they can tackle that next thing.
Right.
Set your intent and focus on your breath. And I will say, the years have changed how much time I have to do that. And now maybe it is between 10 and 20 minutes in the morning. Maybe that is the case, and it is. So that's what feels good to me now. And it's not all in meditation. It is, I have a book, I read a passage from the book every morning, and then I journal, or, so my meditation looks different, and it has fluctuated through the years, how it looks. But I do have that if you can do nothing else for yourself, if you have no more time to give to yourself than a few minutes a day, then make it focused on your breath. Set that intent for what this is doing for you, for your body, mentally, emotionally, whatever it might be. Set the intent, and then just put all of your focus on that for 60 seconds. That's I think that's a huge thing to do for yourself. And then understand that your practice changes as you change, and as your life changes, your practice will change. But I think it does always come back to giving yourself that time. Always honoring yourself enough to give yourself that time. You're worth it, you know. Yeah.
I think we've talked about this earlier and before. I think that is one of the number one challenges of moms, is learning to prioritize ourselves. In the beginning, with that helpless baby, we have to put so much attention on making sure that he or she is safe and is being fed, and you're paying attention. And it still is true. Prioritizing your own health, your own sanity, your own sleep. Oh my gosh, how powerful that is. So thank you for reminding us of that, and such a simple, powerful tool. But I do want to ask you, is there something that is your personal self-care indulgence that you do to help you feel better, relax, pick yourself up? What's one thing that you do for you unapologetically?
Well, now I'm at a stage in life where I can do a few different things. I thankfully I'm somewhere where I don't have a child that needs me all the time or searching for me if I'm trying to hide from them. Um,
Right.
so I do have several practices for myself. The first is what we talked about, is doing that reading, journaling every morning, meditation. And like I said, it can range. It can be 10 minutes. I try to at least set aside 10 minutes a day, or every morning, I guess. It can be between 10 and 30 minutes every morning that I do for myself. And I do the things that I love. I give myself permission to do the things that I love. And sometimes it's, watching stupid videos online and making myself, and laughing. I love doing that. Other times it's getting lost in a book, a good fiction book,
Mm.
or I love doing that. And my husband and I love watching shows together, comedies, everything pretty much. Those things actually do fill me, recognizing that even those things that might appear as if you're wasting time actually are important, because they do they fill my heart. They keep me balanced. They
Mm.
keep me joyful. Yeah, I mean, take it. I do all those things unapologetically, and I nap. I nap that also. I don't apologize for that. I love it. But there was a time in my life where I would feel that overwhelm, and lots of people have different ways to cope with overwhelm. Mine was retreating, um, and I would just sleep. Boy, would I just sleep. Just shut out the world and just retreat. And that I wouldn't say was a positive thing that I did, but now I offer myself naps, and I do offer myself time in other ways, unapologetically, like you said. Um, I don't get to that point anymore where I feel that overwhelm. I just don't. Thankfully, I guess. Yeah.
That's beautiful. With my clients, I ask them when in their day have they scheduled their personal recharge time. And
Hmm.
it's to do exactly what you talked about, something that is going to nurture. And there are times where the brain is done, and it might be just watching a movie or reading a nonfiction book that isn't too strenuous, because it just, this is going to fill me. It might be going to take a walk outside and just with no music, no more input. And it might be a nap. But
Hmm.
what I love, and we're coming back to the word that you said, it's the intention, recognizing that we do only have so much mental and physical and emotional capacity in a day. And sometimes we have to take a step back and recharge. And when we intentionally add it, then there's no guilt. Then we can actually recharge and not be draining ourselves because, oh, I shouldn't be doing this and feeling guilty, because then it doesn't
Right.
really help. So I love the putting the intention, and this is recharging. This is refreshing me so that I can come back out and continue.
Yeah.
So I know we've talked about you're in a different space now. What would you say when your kids were younger and you're driving them to school and taking them to sports and different activities and working and managing the house? And what did you feel was your biggest challenge? And what were some of the things that you found to overcome them so you weren't overwhelmed, stressed, and breaking down?
Um, I think that the biggest challenge when the children were younger was that idea that I wasn't doing enough. Yes, I was driving
Mm,
them to school. I was helping with homework. I was taking them to sports. I was there when they had emotional meltdowns. I was there putting them to bed and bathing them and cooking for them and all those needs, physical and greater than physical, emotional. Um, I was there meeting those. Thankfully, I had a partner that also took some of that. Um, but I think that I don't think that I did it perfectly all the time. That would be a lie. I did not do it perfectly all the time. I think that the thing that helped me most was when I realized that in comparing myself to others, I was not
mm,
doing myself any justice. So it's the saying that comparison is the thief of joy, right? And that I think was the biggest lesson that I had to learn when the kids were little. You see other people and other moms who seem like they have it all together, and I don't think that's necessarily true. I think we all struggle through that phase. Um, and so I had to really rely on what felt good for me, what was enough for me and my family, and not compare it to, like, my kids. I didn't pack their lunches once they hit middle school. They were packing their own lunches, but there were moms who packed their kids lunches through high school. And I thought, and it would make me feel inferior at times. But knowing that what I did was right for me and for my family, and stopping that comparison, recognizing that there was no need for that. All it was judgment on myself, really. And that doesn't help anybody. I think that was the biggest lesson to learn for me. Um, was to step back and just understand that what's right for me and my family might not be what's needed for another family and that person, but being able to step back and say, this is good enough. This is good. What I'm doing right now is good enough and it works for us. And not comparing myself to anybody else. That was the biggest lesson. I don't know if that even answered your question. Did it?
No, I think that's fabulous. I think that is what causes so much stress as moms, as
Yeah.
parents, is trying to do it all. And the first thing is, I can't do it all. There's too
Hmm.
much in a day. It doesn't matter if you're single, if you have kids, if you cannot do quote unquote it all in a day. And then if you add, I'm trying to do it all, and I'm comparing myself to what your impression is of someone
Yeah.
else, what you think someone else has, right? Then,
Hmm.
of course, you're going to find fault. And what it comes back to is our own judgment, right? Our judgment of ourselves. That's what I heard you say in different words was, I'm not doing enough. And
Hmm.
so instead of focusing on my kids got up, they're dressed, they're fed, they have lunch, they got to school, go me, right? It's,
Yeah.
I didn't put enough vegetables in their lunch, or
Right.
their hair's not brushed, or
Yeah.
we didn't make sure we studied an extra hour last night. And I'm speaking for myself too, as a mom of a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old, there were so many moments I was thinking the same thing. I'm not doing enough for the
Hmm.
kids. And oh, should we get in that sport? Do you want to do that activity? And trying to, do it all to measure up. And
Hmm.
and I know we're coming from a good place. We want to make sure that we're setting our kids up for success. We want them to have lots of opportunities so that they learn skills and they learn to interact, and they learn what they're supposed to in school. And we also have to recognize there's only so much time in a day and we don't have so
Yeah.
much energy. And I love how you said, what is enough for our family?
Yeah.
And what can I handle? And another thing I teach my clients is that celebrating.
Sorry.
that's that's all right. is to, at the end of the day, look back and this works great with our kids, saying, hey, what was the best part of your day? Right? What went really well today? And at night, before I go to bed, I look back over my day. What was the best part of my day? What brought me joy? And so I'm focusing on what I did right. And there's plenty, there's, the to-do list that's still going to be there tomorrow. And are we focusing on what we're doing well, how we're taking care of our family, how we're taking care of ourselves, or are we focusing on what we're not doing and doing the comparison? So I'm so glad you brought that up. That is so powerful. If we could
You
teach
just reminded me.
one more thing.
Right.
Yeah.
You just
Go ahead.
reminded me of something that we used to do when I was I used to be a teacher. But when I was teaching, we used to end our day with our rose. And I didn't make this up. I learned it from somebody else. The rose, what was your flower? What was the positive thing that happened during your day? What was the thorn? And then we would talk about it, right? And I started doing this with my own kids. I just found out this past weekend that my daughter still does that in her head. She does that every single day before she goes to bed. Still, she goes over what was my flower, what was my thorn, and we have now shifted. She is a freshman in college and has struggled to, as many freshmen do, to kind of find her people and find her place, and that has been my biggest worry, I would say, at this point in time. And so I did give her an energy treatment, and then we talked about maybe not focusing so much on the thorns anymore at this point in life. When they were younger, it was good to talk about those, and then to talk about ways that we could maybe smooth out that rough edge, that pointy edge. How could we solve some of the problems? It just opened up communication, really. But maybe now, at this point in your life, now that you understand a little bit more about energy, maybe it is about finding the flowers, finding the buds in your day and focusing on those so that you start to see them more, you start to look for them more, you start to notice them more. And when you start to notice them more, you start seeing more and more and more, right? If energy follows intent, and my intent is finding the positive moments in my day, then I'm going to start seeing more and experiencing more positive things. So that has been our shift. But it started with she admitted to me that she still does the flower and the thorn of her day every single day, which is funny because that was something that we did when they were like, she was probably 5 at the time it started. So yeah, that was interesting that she still.
That is a beautiful and simple practice. So for the moms listening, it really doesn't matter what age your kids are. That is a great metaphor. And like you said, using the thorns as what can we learn from it, not focusing on that it was painful. How can we learn and grow? And so next time it might not happen. It might not be a thorn. So that was beautiful. So we're kind of coming to the end of where I want to wrap it. And we didn't really get to talk about the balance of moms and your business. But I think everything that we talked about, if we can put all those in practice, then the business will be supported also. But you've given us a whole lot of tools and practices. But I want to ask you specifically, if you could tell another overwhelmed mompreneur, mom, just one message from your heart, what would you want her to hear today?
Oh goodness, that's gonna make me cry on the outside a little bit. I think I would just tell her that you are enough. What you're doing right now is enough. Everything about you is enough. You don't have to do or prove yourself or do anything else or say yes to this or say yes to that to be able to show your worth. You are enough. That's it.
Beautiful. All right. So just before we talk about where people can find you, you've given us a lot of tips and tricks and tools, but is there anything else that you could think of, a practice, something that could help that mom when she's starting to feel stressed out, anxious, or just, the overwhelmed in her life?
Hmm. Um, I mean, I feel like we've covered a lot of it. I think that really
Okay.
the biggest thing is to love yourself enough to honor yourself in a way of giving yourself a little bit of time every day. It is not selfish. Give yourself the time, give yourself the space, schedule it in if you have to. You know, if you have, something on almost every hour, you can always find 5 minutes. You can get up 5 minutes earlier and spend those 5 minutes doing something for yourself. You can always find 5 minutes. Schedule it in, give yourself the time. I think that's the biggest thing. And don't feel like you should be doing anything else because it is the most important thing that you can do during this day. That's it.
That was beautiful. So powerful. So powerful. So, if you're interested in working with Maria, her website is joyofenergyandsound.com. And I think really that speaks to who you are and why you do what you do. And just the name of your website, I want to go check it out, which I have, because it is the joy of that. You can also email her. She's part of a school of wisdom called Vastara School of Wisdom. Her email is maria@vastaraschool.com. And if you visit their website, vastaraschool.com, you can see their upcoming, this is a collective of different healers, artists. Wendy Ann was on last week, where she is a writer and she helps with your artistic, the energy inside of you, having it coming out with painting and other forms of artistry. But you can check out their upcoming programs. They're located in North Carolina. Where are you primarily offering your classes, Maria?
I'm in Belmont, which is just outside of Charlotte, but I have an office here in Belmont, and then I have space up in Mooresville, Laura's place. And then my sound baths are local, Charlotte area, I guess. But I do energy sessions distance like you and I have done. And yeah, so it doesn't matter where you are, but the classes are in person here in the Charlotte area. Yeah.
Beautiful. Lots of ways to connect, to receive from her. If you're local, you can participate in the sound baths. If you're not, I'm in Colorado. We had a wonderful energy session that was really eye-opening for me. And yeah, it felt fabulous too. And I forgot to really introduce myself earlier, but Lara Brzezinskis, and I have a coaching business, Radiant Joy Coaching, where I love helping mompreneurs thrive as moms and in their businesses. And you can reach me, info@radiantjoycoaching.com. And the last thing I like to point out is that we are operating from a platform called New Thought Media Network. It is a global broadcast network of positive music, media, entertainment, and so much more, offering messages, insight, wisdom to serve and support you on your human expression, on your spiritual journey in this human form, however you want to call it, but how to help you have your best life, right? Feel great, be happy, like all the things. And so we do invite you to visit the website ntmedia.org to see what upcoming shows we have. You can also visit us on YouTube, New Thought Media Network. And if any of our programs are serving and supporting you, and you want to express your gratitude, participate in the law of giving and receiving, we do have a donate button, ntmedia.org/donate. So I think that was all of the admin stuff I wanted to say. So before we hop off today, Maria, any last words for our listeners?
Oh, I think we've covered so much. Yeah. So I think just leaving with just remember you are worthy, you are enough, honor yourself, give yourself the time that you need, never feel selfish. Never feel selfish taking those 10 minutes, taking that 5-minute break. Um, You're needed at your best, and you cannot be your best until you honor yourself and give yourself that space to do so. So, yeah, that's it. That's the long and the short
I
of
think
it.
that's perfect. Yep. Yep. And if we all do that, men, women, moms, not moms, and everything in between, if every single human realize, right, love ourselves first, give ourselves permission. I love that expression. Give yourself permission to have self-care time, to recharge, because then when you're at your best, you are rippling out into the world your best. Okay, well, we hope to see you back next week, 4 o'clock Mountain Time at 6 p.m. Eastern. Until then, remember, it's all love. It's about love, loving yourself, loving the world. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Good night.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.